Hello, all you wrongs, not as dark as death or night out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor.
So, no lights, just the darks are welcome. That sounds real bad, actually, now that I just said that.
This is Undeclared Bajor, the best Star Trek DS9 discussion podcast on the internet. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
What up?
Today we're going to discuss and review and stuff Star Trek DS9 Season 6, Episode 17, Wrongs Darker Than Death or Night. Alternate title, How Gul Dukat Met Your Mother.
No, that was good. Okay.
Nice. Saved it. We will be discussing spoilers up through this episode, but not after this episode, so it is safe to watch along with us if this is your first experience with Star Trek DS9. But we like to spoil, anything else. Game of Thrones. Been watching that new Penguin show, except I'm not all the way caught up, so don't spoil that for me.
I haven't watched any of that yet, so
I saw the first two episodes. Pretty good.
I need to start that, and I need to start Agatha all along, and there's a new season of Tulsa King. There's lots of things I need to watch.
I haven't watched Agatha all along. I'm too afraid to get Disney Plus back after they're... Apparently you have to sell your soul to get that service or something.
Yeah. You've already done it, though. I don't think you have to be an active...
Yeah, that's true. I already signed it away. I can't sue the Disney Corporation ever now.
Yep.
But Wrongs Darker Than Death or Night originally aired April 1st, 1998. It was written by Ira Steven Behr and Hans Beimler. So that's just the new, team now, I guess.
I guess so, huh?
And directed by Jonathan West Desperado.
Yeah, we've seen him a few times. Most notably, Trials and Tribulations.
Ah.
But
so he's always around for the Orb of Time.
Interesting point. I mean, I don't know that he was in... isn't that the one that, Zek had also?
Did he, or did he just have the... No, because that was before Trials and Tribulations, wasn't it?
I think so.
And they were bringing the Orb of Time back from Cardassia.
Right.
When they did that.
Yeah, I think that's where the Orb of Time came into the picture, if I remember right.
Yeah.
But also, they chose, the worst picture of him, I feel like, for the wiki entry in Memory Alpha for him. There must have been a better one.
I don't know. He almost looks like he's, staring out at the horizon with a grand, deep vision or something.
Okay, yeah, maybe that's what they're going for.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what they were going for. Whether they accomplished it, I don't know.
Mm.
And Cirroc Lofton is not in this episode.
Nope.
This is just turning into a real Cirroc Lofton light episode.
You mean season? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely episode. But this is a really serious Kira episode, so let's start out with a lighthearted Worf and Dax moment. While they enjoy coffee at Quark's, Dax mentions that the Saratoga arrived at the station this morning, but Worf cuts her off at the pass. He doesn't want to throw another party. All those people crammed into their quarters, eating, drinking, laughing. Dax pokes fun at Worf by promising, there will be absolutely no laughing. Worf seems to relent and says, okay, when do you want to have this party? But then Jadzia blows the whole thing by suggesting that the party have a theme. Everyone shows up as their favorite Klingon. Which, if it was a joke, was not a well-conceived joke.
No, yeah, Worf is not a fan of this plan.
Yeah, I don't know if she's being serious, but either way, that was not the moment to...
No, yeah, it didn't go over. It went over like a lead balloon, as they say.
Yep.
And but it's funny because we just had an episode recently where it was like, "Hey, the Saratoga's going to be at the station soon," and now here it is.
Was that the Saratoga or the Cortez?
Hold on.
Which one has the fire dancer guy?
I think it was the Saratoga that has the fire dancer. But hold on, we're going to find out now. Was it? It was the last episode, I guess. Change of Heart. Oh no, that was the Sutherland.
Oh man, both wrong.
Yep. The Sutherland had the fire dancer. So maybe when the Sutherland showed up, if Worf and Dax were back on the station and she was feeling okay, they did have a party. And that's why he's like, okay, no more parties after that last one.
Okay. Yeah, this is making sense. Yeah, I guess this is just coming right on the heels of their whole mission to the deep into Dominion territory and all that stuff.
She seems okay, though.
Yeah. But yeah, Worf goes off to the holosuite to exercise, clearly not pleased.
Maybe he's meeting up with Morn, for his favorite, like, dueling buddy or whatever.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And Quark walks by with an armful of flowers and just says, "No party?"
It was this close. It really wasn't. Like, you were there and then you screwed it up.
Yeah, you what do they say? Got defeat from the jaws of victory or whatever.
Yep, snatched defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yep.
Really, just why does it have to be in your quarters? Like, Quark wants to the party too. Why don't you just throw a party at Quark's or in a holosuite or something? Like,
yeah, they need to have like more holosuite parties. I bet you could have an awesome party in a holosuite.
Yeah. Actually, now I'm thinking, like, the physical space doesn't actually get bigger in the holosuite, even if it appears that it does. So, like, if you cram enough people in there, you would be, like, shoulder to shoulder no matter what it looked like. That could get really disconcerting, actually.
Yeah, I wonder if there's, like, a capacity limit in the holosuites. Oh, yeah, it could be you can't have more than 5 people in there or something. I guess that would make sense. So, Quark gives the flowers to Kira, who explains to Dax that she ordered her mother's favorite Bajoran lilacs to honor her mother's birthday. Her late mother.
I do like the way that, like, we see that the Kira-Quark relationship is like, still, like, moved to that slightly more positive space where she's like, thank you, Quark. Like, she's real nice to Quark, and he's nice to her. And then after, Dax is like, is there something between you and Quark? And she's like, ew, no.
Right.
But it's not, like, as mean as it would have been, like, a year before this. So I kind of like what they've done to be consistent with these two.
Yeah, there's that relationship is just moving right along. It's very nice and touching to see. She didn't break Dax's nose for suggesting that. That's progress.
Yep, there you go.
But yeah, sadly, Kira doesn't have much memory of her mother, who died in a Bajoran refugee center when Kira was only 3. Later, Kira is awoken in the middle of the night by a phone call from Gul Dukat. "What up?" he says. "I saw it was your mom's birthday and just thought I'd call to let you know your mom didn't die in the refugee camp. She actually was my lover and left your dad for me. I never brought it up until now or even insinuated it in that way I like to do because, I didn't feel like it."
Well, he's Cisco did something for him in that previous episode by, like, revealing the truth or whatever. And so he's like, now I want to do the same for you. By which I mean, I just want to mess with you, and I thought this would be funny.
As proof, he offers all kinds of personal details about Kira's mom, which Kira doesn't believe. But then he says he knows Kira's mom loved Bajoran lilacs, which he pronounces as lilacs.
Yep. That's what gets it.
Right.
That pronunciation is what just put it over the top. Also,
my mom could never pronounce lilacs.
while like the shot of him is like real close on his face. I mean, it lets you see there's some Federation stuff, so I guess he's still on that shuttle that he stole in that previous episode.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, like, it's a wide angle on her so that he can see the flowers in the background.
Well, and at one point, I think he picks up the webcam and brings it closer to his face.
Nice.
But yeah, she's like, "Bajoran lilacs, how did you know? That couldn't have come up in any background research on my mom, or easily deduced from the fact that I am displaying Bajoran lilacs on her birthday." And then Gul Dukat just hangs up before Kira can ask, "Wait, do you know where my mom is? Is she still alive?"
Well, no, because he's like, we were lovers almost from the moment we met right up to, like, the day she died or something like that. Like, he says that she's dead.
Oh, okay. So she goes and looks up her mom's file from the refugee center, but we don't know what it says about her death, and we never find out.
Nope. But apparently something, because, like, it leads Kira to look at more stuff.
Yeah. Or I kind of have a theory it tells the whole story in there.
She wasn't going to believe it.
And the whole rest of this episode was just her wanting to go on a time travel vacation.
Sure.
But she goes to work in ops, where Chief O'Brien is trying to talk Dr. Bashir into doing the Battle of the Alamo in the holosuite. But Bashir thinks that does not sound fun.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want to lose. Why would we want that?
Can we play as the Mexicans?
It's like, no, we get to hang out with Davy Crockett and Jim Bowie. It'll be great.
Kira cuts in and is like, hey, dorks, stop talking about your lame historical LARP stuff and get back to work. And then she sees everyone staring at her, and she's like, and that goes for everyone else, too. Then she goes down to Odo's office to ask about increased criminal activity on the promenade. Odo's like, just a few cases of petty theft. I got some guys on it. But Kira's like, no, I want you to handle it personally. Do one of those cool shape-shifting sting operation things you do.
Yeah.
And Odo's like, okay, yeah, sure, but I can't help but wonder if you've got something on your mind? Want to talk about it? But she says, no, I don't want to talk about it. And Odo's like, okay, it's cool. At least thanks for getting me in the episode. Speaking of which, if you don't want to talk about it, maybe you should do something about it. And then it could be an episode.
It's true, yeah.
So she heads up to Sisko's office and tells him about the call from Dukat. Sisko wonders why she didn't report the call, and she says she tried tracing it.
Even though she did not.
Sisko's tempted to point out that there are a few people on the station who might be more expert at tracing signals than her, but he can tell this is important to her, so he just puts a pin in that for now. Kira confides that Gul Dukat claims to have been her mother's lover, and Sisko says, so? He calls me like every week to tell me he banged my mom.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised by it, but...
Like, it's like every week there's a new phone call where Dukat has some new, like, circuitous way of getting around to saying that he banged Sisko's mom.
Or no, even better, it's like every week he calls a different member of the senior staff on Deep Space Nine and claims that he banged their mom, and Kira is the only one who's taken him seriously.
Right? Like, he calls Odo. He's like, I banged your mom. He's like, what? I went and had sex with that whole big ocean of goo.
So, take that.
So Kira proposes the following plan. I'm going to go to the Temple of Ipanu on Bajor and use the Orb of Time to travel back to the past and see if I can see my mom and Dukat banging. Sisko says, that's the most insane thing I've ever heard. Wouldn't this claim be easy enough to prove or disprove with just a little bit of research and investigation?
Talk to some people who were on the station at that time, or...
yeah.
Even some Cardassians? Like, you guys aren't really friends with the Cardassians anymore. Don't do that.
I mean, just hire a PI or get Odo to do it. I mean, I bet Garrett could track it down for you.
Yeah, maybe. She'd have to believe what somebody else said, which is the whole thing. She's like, I won't believe it until I see it with my own eyes. I must see them naked together.
Right. I have to see, like, the full genital contact. Nothing else will satisfy me.
That's what she said.
Sisko's like, well, can't you just ask the prophets what the truth is? At least that way you won't accidentally, like, become your own mother or something dumb like that. But she insists, no, I want to do the time travel. And I need you to back me as the emissary because there's like 8,000 people in line ahead of me for the Orb of Time who want to use it for legitimate historical research.
I feel like it may be more of a situation like the Orb of Time is extremely dangerous, and so we keep it locked up and no one's allowed to mess with it. Unless the emissary says so, and then all bets are off.
Right, of course. You have to do what the emissary says.
Yeah.
This is established. But Sisko apparently gives in because we cut right to Kira in the temple opening the orb.
She got him.
Yep.
Okay, so before we get into the rest of the story, this is probably a good time to talk about the original story for the episode.
Oh, good. Is this one of those ones that started off as like Nog goes to Disneyland or something?
Not quite. It was quite different. It seems to... okay, so basically, the story began its life, it says, as a show based on Nazi Dr. Joseph Mengele.
Yeah.
Who was a... You know, we know what he did. I'm not going to read that part.
Right, yeah. But go look him up on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Actually, don't do that.
No. In that episode, the ghosts... Let me focus on that word for a minute.
Okay.
Of Bajoran children begin appearing on the station. And the crew comes to believe that they are the ghosts of children killed by a Cardassian scientist during the occupation who carried out research on them. So, So ghosts appear on the station, and the crew is just like, man, I guess those are seriously ghosts. And they must be the ghosts of, like, children from the occupation. How crazy.
I mean, obviously.
In the end, it turns out they're not ghosts after all. Shocker. The doctor was, in fact, sending children into the future to gather information for the Obsidian Order.
Oh.
The writers could not make this story work, and it was abandoned at the last minute.
What?
However, the idea of an infamous Cardassian doctor experimenting on Bajorans did later show up in the Voyager episode Nothing Human.
Ooh.
So
I can't believe they didn't get that concept to work.
There's a second note on the concept, which it is written, I don't know if it's just me or if it's written poorly, but it says, the part of the story dealing with the ghosts of the dead, those killed by the Cardassians during the occupation on then Terok Nor, were covered previously in the 1996 Star Trek Deep Space Nine Harbinger, written by Ken Eklund and Sarah Stalker.
Jeez, do some proofreading, Memory Alpha.
Hilary J. Bader was the story consultant. The story was a part of the spirits of those who were murdered on Terok Nor were rising. In the game, the Borya, in parentheses spirits, were the souls of the murdered that still roam the station in the same pattern in life, unable to ascend to the prophets because they were denied the Bjorn death chant by the Cardassians. So I don't understand what that note is saying, and it doesn't link to, like, anything else that would expound on it. I even, like, searched for the two people who wrote it. I was like, is this a novel? Is this a game? What is this? And looking up, I don't know if it's the spelling that was wrong or what, but when I Google those two together, nothing Deep Space Nine related comes up, or Star Trek related for that matter. So I don't know what's up with that note, but I had to share.
That sounds like Ira Stephen Bear was drunk one night and he was like, let me tell you the real story of what's going on here.
Okay, well, now that you mentioned that, speaking of Ira Stephen Bear telling the real story of what's going on, we will touch on one other thing, which is, in the documentary What We Left Behind, Nana Visitor attests that initially, Ira Stephen Bear had approached her and advised her to prepare for the next script because it would feature the character of Kira Nerys having an affair with Gul Dukat.
What?
So let that sink in for a minute, that Ira Stephen Bear's like, okay, so you and Dukat, you're going to get it on in this next episode. How that would make any sense, I don't know. Maybe he was going to disguise himself as a Bajoran and seduce her or something. I don't, but...
was she going to, like, go into her own mother's body or something like that?
Oh, maybe. I didn't think about that. So, according to her, she pleaded with him, like, no. He can't have an affair. Like, Kira can't sleep with Dukat. Like, that would never happen. You can't do that. But she says, but Bear just really wanted this affair to happen. And so, when she eventually got the script, Bear told her, okay, it's not you, it's your mom. So, like, that was, like, his accession to her of being like, okay. However, in that documentary, he at first disputes this account. However, based on the fact that no version of such an affair was ever written, although he then assured Visitor that he could remember her coming to him incredibly upset. So, he's like, no, we never wrote a script like that. What are you talking about? I mean, I remember you were all upset about a thing, but it probably wasn't that.
Yeah. My only guess is that in an early... somewhere between the Cardassian Dr. Mengele and Ghosts and what we got, there was a plan for her to, I guess, live the experience through her mother's eyes or something like that.
That would be deeply disturbing. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, probably that's a change for the better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, immediately Kira, after opening the orb, is transported to the cave set.
Sweet.
It's filled with refugee-looking people huddled around fire pits eating soup. So this must be the place.
Very thin soup.
Then she sees her dad walking in hand with her at age 3.
It's nice they got the same actor back to play her dad.
Oh, was it? I couldn't quite tell if it was him or not.
It is, yeah.
So I was kind of wondering. He's found her outside scrounging around for food and brings her back to her mother, who has just gotten their ration of soup, which is quite paltry. A couple of bullies come up and try to shake them down for their soup. So Kira, which is Kira Nerys, grown-up version, steps in and fights them off. Kira's mom, Kira Naru, introduces grown-up Nerys to the rest of the Kira family, including Nerys' never-before-mentioned brothers, Rion and Pol.
Oh, the fact that she had two brothers was mentioned in the second season episode Shadowplay. They were not named, though.
Wow. I thought Ira Stephen Bear was like smartly laying out some loose threads to pick up later. It's like, whenever you do flashbacks like this, you got to sneak in stuff like that,
It would be nice to meet her brothers as adults and see what's up. Assuming they made it. I don't know.
I have a horrible feeling they might not have.
Also, in this scene, young Kira is holding a doll, which appears to be Loopy, a doll that we previously saw belonging to Molly O'Brien.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
So, is the Loopy doll just also for sale on Bajor, or
maybe? Yeah, maybe it's like a popular Bajoran doll or something. Totally.
Did Kira give her beloved doll as a present to Molly one time or something?
And now I gotta see. Is the doll literally Bajoran? There's a close up picture of it here. It is. So.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it could have been a gift, or it just could be like a popular doll. Like it could be the Bajoran Barbie, and they got Molly one at the Bajoran toy store.
Good old Loopy, Bajoran Barbie. I like it.
So anyway, little Nerys wants to know Big Nerys' name, so she introduces herself as Luma Rawl.
After really struggling, realizing that oh crap, I didn't plan at all before doing this. Not even how to address the question of, what is your name?
Right. And I don't, what was she expecting when she opened the orb?
Yeah, right.
I don't know. And is Luma Rawl a real person and she's just living the experience through Luma's eyes, or has she inserted herself and created a new timeline?
It's definitely not in any way clear. I did wonder. I was like, why would she? Maybe Luma Rawl is just somebody she knows and that won't encounter her during this time. But I was like, did you invent a whole new name? Wouldn't it be easy? It's like, oh, my name is Dax.
Uh-huh. I mean, Luma Rawl could just be the equivalent of Jane Smith or something like that.
That's true. It could be.
Then we meet quite a character. A Bajoran man walks in, a man who has elevated being a collaborator to an art form.
Yep.
This guy is such a top-tier collaborator that he bosses Cardassians around.
I mean, it's impressive when you get right down to it.
He announces that the Cardassian officers on Terok Nor need some comfort women, and starts pointing out women for the Cardassians to take. Among those are Kira and her mom. Bajoran collaborator guy assures them that now their children will eat better than they have any right to. So this guy is just full on. Basso is his name.
Yes, Basso. And according to the wiki, the script gave his given name as Tromac.
Oh, this is important.
Yeah.
Basso takes them up to Terok Nor and assigns them to their quarters. Luckily, Kira and her mom wind up as roommates. Collaborator dude Basso tells them to eat as much food and take as long showers as they want. Kira immediately begins plotting to hook up with the local resistance, but Maru is overwhelmed by how much food there is. She starts chowing down, but pauses to hope that her family is being taken care of. And Nerys says, don't count on it. So I think it's also a little ambiguous whether she was really being taken care of or not. But later it sounds like they were, so I don't know.
Yes, I mean, because I guess from her perspective, it's like, oh, we weren't doing all that well. They weren't taking care of us. That's not what I remember as a kid. But clearly, from what we find out later, it's yes, you absolutely were being taken care of way better.
Yeah.
When you're 3, you don't realize that.
Yeah. So this is kind of part of why I was like, when she's Luma, does she remember that she's Kira, or is she just Luma Rawl? I don't know. But Nerys notices a scar on her mother's cheek, which she quickly covers back up with some hair, explaining that she failed to show a Cardassian officer the proper respect. She wonders why Nerys is being so nice to her, and Nerys replies that she doesn't have many friends, and Maru says, well, you have one now. Later, all the comfort women gathered in the wardroom, which during the Cardassian era had, I guess, slightly bigger chairs.
Well, yeah, I mean, you need bigger chairs when you're a Cardassian,
Sure.
obviously.
Yeah.
They wear that big ass like armor. So.
True. And would you describe their dresses more as prom dresses or bridesmaids dresses?
Let's see here. Bridesmaid.
Yeah, I think.
Sure.
Yeah, I think they're prom dresses. At least they occasionally try to make them pretty. So these look pretty tacky.
We didn't have a prom, so I don't even know.
Either way, sleazy collaborator explains their duty. Provide, quote, comfort and care to the Cardassian officers, or else get sent to a labor camp. But then the door opens and Gul Dukat walks in. No, he says, be nice to the ladies. We're all nice, all us Cardassians. All that stuff you heard about us, and also personally experienced, is all lies. Cardassians are just the nicest people in the galaxy.
Well, I mean, according to him, in that Waltz episode, like, this is him taking over Terok Nor, right? Like, this is Terok Nor's newly built, we're told, and the Cardassian soldiers need comfort women. So this is when he shows up and he tries to, like, lessen all of the bad stuff.
Is it, like, I think it was not clear how long he has been prefect at this point. Because also we hear that he's tried this same scam on lots of ladies before, so...
Yeah, that's the thing that got me, is, like, I felt like the episode was pretty explicit that this was, like, all pretty new, and then that guy's like, oh, I've seen this before. And I was like, oh, okay.
Maybe he did it at his last posting or whatever.
Yeah. In the episode, it said that Terok Nor was built in 2346. However, in an earlier episode, Babel, Odo had stated that it was built in 2351. So... it could be that Odo's just wrong, or maybe 2346 is when they started it, and 2351 is when they ended the building process. Who knows?
Sure. Then Dukat notices Maru's scar. Basso says, oh shoot, I didn't notice she had a slight imperfection. I'll have her throw it out the airlock immediately. But Dukat calls for a dermal regenerator and just removes the scar.
So, this Basso guy is, he's got a little bit of expanded universe going on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so... apparently, he is, like, Gul Dukat's personal aide for a long time.
Is there an Adventures of Basso book?
No, he just appears in a couple of Terok Nor era novels. So, the most interesting one to me is that apparently at some point, Basso gets real sick of having to take care of Maru's family. And so he comes up with a plan to get rid of her. Where he lets her know that Dukat has another Bajoran mistress, Tora Naprem, and that Tora Naprem is expecting a baby, who we will later know as Tora Zial.
Right.
So, after upsetting her in this way, he goes to Dukat and says that, oh yeah, Maru found out about, like, your other mistress, and she's really mad, so she called your wife.
Oh.
And so, in order to prevent Maru from embarrassing him in front of the eyes of the Central Command, Dukat has Krell Moset infect her with the Vostosa virus, leading to her death shortly thereafter.
Oh my.
So, that in Krell Moset is the Joseph Mengele Cardassian from the Voyager episode.
Oh, wow.
That comes later on. So, it all comes together.
It's all tied together.
And so, Basso, like, masterminds all this so that he'll no longer have to watch after that stupid Bajoran family. Except, apparently, it doesn't work. Like, Maru is dead, but he still has to keep looking out for her family, because in later on, Dukat's like, locate the now 14-year-old Kira Nerys, who's just joined the Shakar Resistance Cell in the Dakar Hills, and make sure that she doesn't come to any harm.
Huh.
So he's had an interest in Kira for a long time, is the indication there. But then, Basso gets his comeuppance in a later novel that appears, it sounds like this novel explains, you remember that previous one where we find out that, like, Kira killed that chemist guy?
Yeah.
So, it seems to be a novel of that, like, what was happening at that time.
Was that Necessary Evil?
Yes, I think that's right. Yes, Necessary Evil. So, it follows Kira as she's going, like, why she goes there, what she does and everything. And so as she's like leaving, Basso like catches on to what's going on and tries to stop her, and then Kira wrestles the phaser away from him and kills him. So it all worked out.
But she didn't know who he was?
Yeah, she doesn't know who he is. I mean, I guess we're not told here that she doesn't know who he is.
Well, I mean, like, she didn't know who he was when she, like, killed him?
I mean, I guess she knew that he was Gul Dukat's, like...
Right.
Batman or whatever.
But she didn't know any of the stuff about her mom or whatever.
No, she, like, this would have been, it looks like 8 years after her mom's death. So, yeah, she didn't know any of that.
Huh. So lots of Basso lore out there, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is the kind of character you just can't let go.
Right. So, Dukat removes the scar. Nerys looks over and sees her mom staring enchanted after Dukat and gets a look on her face that says, "Oh no, I'm going to have to watch my mom bang Dukat, aren't I?"
That's what you came for. You know it.
Later, the Comfort Women hang out with a bunch of Cardassians at a party, serving Kanar and sitting on laps and stuff. Nerys and Maru stand in a corner, Maru noting how twisted it is that she has all the comforts she ever dreamed of, and now she feels horrible. Then a creepy Cardassian guy comes and drags her away to creep on her. And,
creeping hard.
And then another creepy Cardassian guy does the same to Nerys.
Yeah, this Cardassian guy, like, clearly he's got, like, a thing for, it's like, tell me how much you hate us.
He's got a kink, for sure.
Yeah, it's, really, I was surprised. I don't know what else she could do in the situation, but I was surprised that, like, Kira just went along with it. Like, she's just like, I mean, that's what I'm here for, I guess.
Yeah. He says, "I bet you're thinking of getting us all drunk and slitting our throats." And then she says, "Are you sure you're not part Betazoid?" Which I thought was a nice joke for the true Trekkies out there.
Mm.
Then he invites her to come sit on his lap and tell him how much she hates Cardassians. And she's like, "You're in luck. I have lots of material on that subject." And yeah, he's just into it. Maru is not having such a great time with her Cardassian, who's getting all handsy. But right on cue, Dukat walks in and orders the gross Cardassian to leave her alone, telling Basso to take her back to her quarters where she can get some privacy. Then Kira's Cardassian says, "I only hope you won't condemn us all for the boorish behavior of one man." And immediately Dukat says the exact same thing to Maru.
Apparently this guy's a legate.
Yeah, so he's in the Central Command?
Yeah, like, he would outrank Dukat, I would think, at this point. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he doesn't object to anything that he sees. He's just here for the show. But he's like, yeah, he does the same crap all the time. But he says Maru is lucky to have caught the prefix I, making her off limits to all the other creepy pervs like him. Later, he drunkenly follows Kira back to her quarters, hoping for some, quote, comfort. But she tells him to go away, and he's like, yeah, I'm probably not going to be able to do any comfort in this condition anyway.
Tomorrow, though.
Yeah.
Totally comforting.
As drunk as I am right now, I'm just setting myself up for embarrassment. So he leaves, and Kira goes in her quarters by herself, expecting to see Maru, but instead she sees Basso and a couple of Cardassians. For you see, Dukat has invited Maru to stay at his quarters.
Yeah.
This angers Kira, and she starts punching the guards, so they drag her down to the slave section of Terok Nor.
I mean, yeah, what did you think was going to happen?
Yeah. Pretty logical thing to happen. But she apparently lives there for the next couple of weeks, just rocking the slave life.
Yeah, I mean, she just goes for it.
Yeah. And she's never just like, oh, is this what my vision is now? Just weeks and weeks of slave labor? And she's making friends with the local resistance. One of the resistance guys asked her to make him a map of the Cardassian side of the station, but she says she doesn't want to get involved with any resistance right now. She's too worried about her friend, but the guy dismisses Maru as a collaborator. She's like, no, she's not a collaborator.
I mean, she kind of is.
Yeah. But then Basso comes and orders Nerys to come with him. He takes her up to Dukat's quarters, where she passes through a security scanner thing. Inside, she sees Maru, who is like, Luma, you came! And Kira's like, Luma? Who's Luma? Oh, right! Yeah! How's it going, girl? is Dukat treating you horribly? But then Dukat comes out and he's like, no, it's all good here. Like I said, we're all nice. And he's like, well, ladies, I'm off to a meeting to organize more atrocities. I mean, being good to Bajorans. He's like, see you later, honey. And he gives Maru a tender smooch on the lips. And when he's gone, Maru is like, oh man, he's so great. And Kira's like, what? No, he's a horrible monster. And she's like, no, that's not true. The Central Command makes him do all those terrible things. And then Kira's like, well, let me drop this bombshell on you. That night you met with that creepy Cardassian hitting on you, that was all an act. But Maru is just like, oh, I know, he told me. He said he got it from an old Earth movie called Back to the Future. And then Kira is like, well, how could you abandon your family like this? And Maru says, well, Dukat sends them extra food and medicine. And so Kira's like, okay, well, thinking back, all that extra food and medicine was pretty great. But still, I mean, you can't, betray your husband like this. And then Maru is like, look, we are in a brutal, horrible situation, and my options are either reject Dukat and have me and my family suffer, or sleep with him, and we all get treated a little better. I've made a deeply personal, super hard choice. And I think later, when you're reflecting on the theme of the episode, right before the credits roll, you'll realize you're not in a position to judge me for it.
See, it's funny because clearly, I mean, as you point out, it's the whole theme of the episode, right? And Kira has to come to terms with the fact that during the occupation, and in particular, but maybe even just in life, it's not so black and white as she wants it to be all the time,
right?
And I think in Deep Space Nine, the writers are wanting us, are like, man, look at how edgy we are, and the depth that we've plumbed here. You wouldn't see something like this on the Next Generation. And then I'm like, wait, wasn't there a Next Generation episode where Deanna and her mom are kidnapped by some Ferengi, and the Ferengi captain guy is wants to sleep with Lwaxana, and she's just like, okay, I guess. And then it's if not outright stated, at least heavily implied that she totally did sleep with him just to smooth things out, especially for her daughter. And I was like, wow, we really dealt with that jokingly at that point, and now almost the exact same thing is extremely serious.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's Deep Space Nine. It's just it's a deep, dark, serious show.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kira calls her mom the C word. Collaborator. And accuses her of being in love with Dukat and storms out. So she goes on this whole thing. It's like, okay, well, you can do it, but you don't have to enjoy it. She goes to the Resistance guy who shows her an earring, and he tells her, check this out, earring bomb. Pretty cool, huh? Undetectable by sensors.
But maybe not, though. Just be careful.
Just put it in Dukat's quarters, and 3 minutes later, bam, no more Dukat. But you can't risk telling your friend, even to save her life. And Kira says, oh yeah, screw her, she's a collaborator. So she calls Basso and asks him to take her back to Maru so she can apologize. And he's like, okay, I find nothing suspicious about that. No. Even as Resistance guy watches creepily from behind some barrels.
They're always, the Bajorans are always just creeping around. What do you want?
They're just always kind of lurking around, hiding behind barrels. She goes back up through the security scanner. There's a little moment of tension when she steps through, but the earring goes undetected. So she finds Maru and Dukat in Dukat's quarters, being all lovey. And Kira apologizes for her earlier outburst. Then Basso pulls out an isolinear rod and says, oh, I also brought this. And Dukat says it's something Maru will find very interesting. And Maru's like, oh, did they finally get Back to the Future 3 back at Space Blockbuster?
Wow, that's a dated reference.
But no, Maru and Kira watch the message on the rod, which is from Neresa's dad. He says, basically, wow, things are great. We're back home. The kids are all well-fed and happy. We miss you, but please keep taking that Cardassian dong. Whatever it takes. It's really paying off.
It's that extra medicine probably kept the kids from dying and stuff, so...
Right. It's whatever compromises you have to make, I'm A-okay with it. And I love you and all that stuff. And Maru cries, and Kira decides she's made a horrible mistake. That The Hello Darkness, My Old Friend song starts playing. Right in the middle of time, right in the nick of time, she gets Maru and Dukat out of the quarters, and they barely survive the blast. Although the guards don't seem so lucky.
Well, and also apparently her character just vanishes after that. So they're like, "Oh man, was she like vaporized in the bomb blast?"
Right. If Luma wasn't a real person or whatever.
Mm.
So yeah, I guess there's a few options. Either she just appeared back in time and invented the person of Luma, or Luma was a real person and she's experiencing everything Luma experienced, or she inhabited the body of Luma but then changed Luma's course to make friends with her mom.
Or maybe she never actually went back in time at all.
Or that.
And this was
so
all
four
in
options.
the orb or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you'll recall, in Waltz, Dukat mentions that on the 1 month anniversary of him taking over the station, there was an assassination attempt. So this could be.
Exactly. I was thinking back to that, and I was like, is this that assassination attempt? Or did Kira unknowingly cause the deaths of those 200 people, or was that a different 200 people? I don't remember. But yeah, the orb experience ends, like you said. Kira returns to D9 and talks to Captain Sisko. She's like, I used to hate collaborators, but now I realize it's not so black and white, and a lot of them were probably just regular people trying to make the best of a bad situation.
Not that Basso guy, though. That guy was an asshole.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely not Basso, but most of the rest of them. And Sisko says, yeah, that would seem to be the moral of the story. And Kira says, I did some checking, and my mom died 7 years after meeting Dukat. Zillions of Bajorans died during that time, so I still can't, totally forgive her. And Sisko at this point wants to say, you couldn't have done this checking before going to the orb, but he holds his tongue and just says, then why did you save her life? And Kira says, well, no matter what, she's still my mother.
Which, that's what the script says, and I'm just like, that's not what it felt like in the moment. That it's like, oh, she's still my mom. Like, that's not what we got from her watching the video or whatever. It wasn't like little Kira being like, I love you, mommy. It was, hey, there's like, she's doing this for you guys, and there was a reason. Like, her reasoning that she gives Sisko, at least, does not ring true to me, because that's not what the scene we just watched seemed to indicate.
Yeah, it seems like she went on this kind of whole character of, or this journey of realizing, hey, maybe I can't be such a harsh judge of collaborators. And then that just all goes out the window. It's like, well, I mean, zillions of people did die while she was collaborating, but whatever, she's still my mom. But yeah, she's like, yeah. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got to go catch a shuttle back down to Bajor, because I've tracked down that Basso guy, and I have some stuff planned for him.
Well, I mean, if
I'm going to get medieval on his ass.
If she killed him in the past, then she now... Does she remember that? Is she really thinking like, man, I'm so glad I shot that guy that one time?
So every time she sees him, she's like, oh, this just makes it so much sweeter.
Yep.
Like that I killed that guy.
So going back to the notes about where the show came from, after we moved past the ghost children, they decided, let's do a story about Kira and the occupation. We haven't done that in a while. But we don't want to do something we've already done. We don't want to do a flashback to what she was doing during the occupation, or a show where she meets people that she knew back then, or a show where her actions back then come back to haunt her now. We want to do something completely different. And Ira Stephen Bear's like, you know what? I didn't really like how we ended things between Kira and Dukat. We need to do something different. I assume this is him going, they should sleep together somehow. Put that note over here.
Right.
How can we take Dukat and bond him close to Kira in a way that would make her just insane? And then Bradley Thompson's like, hey, what if Dukat was making it with Kira's mom? And then they're like, now we have our show. So
you're telling me that these 5.5 seasons we've been through, that wasn't being carefully seeded the whole time?
No, that
it was just all of a sudden pulled out of some guy's ass?
Yeah, I mean, I know it just shatters so many illusions for you, but
right. Also, I just like to say all the natural ways we have for storytelling for how Kira deals with her past. We kind of already did all those. Let's do like a time travel.
Yeah, let's throw the Orb of Time in there as like a shortcut and just get to telling the story.
I'm really disappointed that time we did that with Odo wasn't really time travel. Let's do it for real.
Yeah. Although speaking of, I mean, anyone else disappointed that we went back in time to pre-Odo Terok Nor and did not get Kurtwood Smith back?
Oh man. I am upset about that now.
Like, he could have been the Basso character. That could have just been Kurtwood Smith right there. I mean, it wouldn't have been as you wouldn't have had the collaborator angle to it. It probably would have made more sense, honestly, but...
Right. Yeah, just like this Basso character walking around, like bossing around other Cardassians with no explanation of like how he got to this point.
Exactly, yeah. But it wasn't meant to be, I guess. You can't always afford Kurtwood Smith, is the thing.
True. Yeah, you can't always be paying that Kurtwood Smith money. He might have been too busy with that 70s show by this point.
Maybe. One last note. The only other note is about the title, which we'll get to at title time. But
okay.
This show's favored among writers and producers, not least because of the subtle ambiguity of the denouement. The episode's refusal to push the viewers towards a particular moral position as regards Kira Maru. The viewers left to form their own view of her actions.
I gotta say, I felt pretty pushed towards a moral conclusion. I don't know if I quite agree with what they're saying there.
Well, according to David Weddle, he says it's a muddy issue. Did Kira's mother do the right thing or not? Or was it just a choice for survival for a Bajoran? In the original version of the screenplay, there was no ambiguity at the end of the episode, with Kira clearly forgiving her mother and the viewer being encouraged to do likewise. But Nana Visitor argued that this wasn't true to the character of Kira. There was no way she would be so clear about how she felt. As Visitor explains, the writers originally had Kira feeling much more sympathetic towards her mother in the last scene. Maybe Kira could be sympathetic about the subject in like 20 years, but at that time it was hard for her to deal with the fact that she hadn't killed her. In the end, it is her mother, and Kira believed that the prophets were guiding her. So I imagine she believes not killing her mother was in response to the prophets telling her it was wrong. I definitely didn't get that.
I mean, so I guess this is why they tacked on those last two lines. It was like, oh, but then again,
yeah, you get
she was living the high life while people were dying. So I don't know.
Gotta add some ambiguity.
Right. Okay. Well, you ready to jump into reviews?
Yeah. Let's do that.
All right. So what do you think of the episode Wrongs Darker Than Death or Night?
Okay.
Or Night and Death, or whatever the title is.
This episode. I mean, we got Dukat. That's usually a good thing.
Sure.
He's
always good to see Dukat.
He gets the creepiness on really good at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Then he has to kind of, revert to play the past him in the rest of the episode, so it's not as fun as Dukat can be. But that was he's mildly entertaining.
I mean, his creepy manipulation of Kira's mom was pretty creepy.
Yeah, okay. I mean, we don't honestly the manipulation we saw was like that one scene, and then apparently later he told her the truth about it. So, I mean, it doesn't feel like all that severe to me, honestly. I guess you could count the like healing her scar as manipulation. But that was just that was just a weirdly intense, weird scene there.
I guess it all comes down to, was he being sincere in his own weird, self-deluded way, or was he just being outright manipulative the whole time?
See, I kind of figure that, I mean, as you mentioned, he's always been deluded about what he's doing, what he wants. I imagine he thought he was sincere. Even when he's using the line he's used before, I imagine that he thought this was like, him really being like the good guy, right? Because even though he's used this line before, he's at the same time still saving her from these handsy other Cardassians. So,
Sure.
like, I feel like he thinks he's the good guy here. He thinks that this is all, like, legit, when really we know that he hates the Bajorans, and this is another expression of power over them, essentially.
Right.
Like, just allowing himself, like, I can take whichever one I want, and have her for as long as I want, and it's really gross. But, there's just... I'm not sure what this episode brings to the table, is my thing. Like, yes, we get this story about Kira that it's a very emotional story for Kira. I think that, and they're really trying hard to, like they said, set up this, like, situation where it's like, it's not black and white. Things were hard.
Mm-hmm.
People had to make decisions, and who are you really to be looking at them like that? Like, they get the message across. I get it. I don't know that I feel like it does anything for Kira in the long run. I don't know that we revisit this at all. Spoiler, potentially, to, like, I don't know that I feel like it has a long-term impact on Kira's character. I don't know. There's things that are done well about the episode, but I just don't think I like it overall. Like, I'm just, this is not an episode I want to come back and watch. It's, and maybe it is just the fact that it's like, it's gross. Like,
yeah,
you got the Bajoran collaborator just like pulling women out and dressing them up and being like, hey, look, you're gonna go and comfort these. It's not a pleasant situation, and that's kind of the point. But I don't like watching it. And then I really feel like they tried too hard at the end after the reveal that it's like, oh, Kira realizes the mistake she's made, and they really try to build it up that like what she's gone through at the end. And I already pointed out that I'm like, what they write in the script doesn't feel like what we saw on the screen. So
right,
like that it in the end rings a little false to me, and maybe that also contributes, but it's not like a terrible episode. It's just not one that I enjoy. Like, I don't want to, it's icky. So it's going to be like under the line for me, but it's not like, not like bad. It's not like they did many things well. So it's going to be just like a lieutenant, I think.
All right. Yeah. You telling the story of how this episode came to be, I think kind of illuminates a lot of my complaints about it, because I mean, my main note is, if Dukat wasn't in this episode and it was just a story about Kira's mom being a comfort woman and having to make these hard choices and stuff like that, and Kira like going through this journey and kind of, you know, like we've talked about, realizing stuff isn't so black and white. You're not always really in a position to judge people who do stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That could be a really good episode. Like almost a Captain, if done right. If there wasn't just the absurd coincidence that it was Gul Dukat and also the ridiculous time travel plot. So those, I think, two things just really bugged the hell out of me. I mean, and we could have done all kinds of... So I was thinking, maybe we open up with some collaborators are going on trial or something. And, they're watching these trials on television or something. And, we're going around the room with all our characters and they're talking about what they think about this. And then Kira's very hard lines, like, no mercy for collaborators.
Despite the fact that Odo, as we've discussed multiple times, is a collaborator.
Right, exactly. Yeah. This whole thing with Odo kind of like makes some of this stuff redundant, but But then, then she makes this discovery about her mom, and then investigates and slowly like realizes the stuff her mom went through, and that kind of like, changes her perspective on things or something. That could be really good. Or like, even if it's not her mom, it's just Odo.
Odo was a comfort woman.
Yeah. So you don't even want to know the things Odo had to do. Like, but yeah, or we uncover some new atrocity that Odo was involved in or something like that, and then we learn his story, which we've kind of already done with what was the name of that episode where with Kurtwood Smith?
Hold on, I just had.
I was trying to remember it.
Things Past.
So yeah, it could be about her mom. It could be about Odo, or Odo could have a little bit more of a nuanced view on these on this issue, and I don't know, all kinds of better ways you could have told this story. And hearing now that some guy was just like, what if Dukat was banging Kira's mom? And that was their like starting place for the episode. It really makes a lot more sense to me why this episode just doesn't work. So, I don't think I can go as low as Ensign, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a Lieutenant Junior grade, because I think this is just a fundamentally broken and maddening episode.
Okay. I will say, what your discussion of it did remind me of the one thing that I feel the episode does bring to the table in terms of the overall show. And that's that it really casts Dukat's creepy obsession with Kira in previous episodes in like a new light.
Sure.
And so it like in hindsight, you're like, oh, that's even that much more gross than it was, like the way that he acts around Kira. So, like that's something, I guess. I don't know that it's something good, but it's something.
Yeah, although I feel like that's a thing that didn't develop until a little bit later. I feel like we weren't really getting those vibes like really, really early on, but I could be wrong. I'd have to go back and watch.
I think even on that mission, like when the two of them go on that mission together to rescue Zial, which is pretty early, like he's kind of like coming on to her weird and trying to be like weirdly friendly when she wants nothing to do with him.
Right. I mean, yeah, he's always kind of like had that aspect to him, but I don't know. I never got the feeling that he early on thought there was anything particularly special about her. It just kind of, I don't know. She was just a Bajoran who hated him, and he also a hot woman, so he just got kind of like intrigued and
he just be creeping. I got you. Okay.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. That was always the vibe I was getting, and just such an insane coincidence that he would be banging her mom. That's and also, I guess, despite what some people have said, I just feel the moral of the story is so ham-fisted, like which isn't necessarily bad, but I feel like they explicitly said it at least 2 times in the episode. And maybe a little bit of subtlety is a little bit better. It's okay to have like a really clear message for sure, but just having people be like, you know what, maybe collaborators, maybe they had reasons for what they did. I don't know. So anyway, titles. What do you think about the title?
So the note on the title in here. And
okay.
Do you know where the title comes from? Maybe that's where we start.
I do not know where the title comes from.
So the title of the episode is part of a quotation from the 1820 Percy Bysshe Shelley lyrical drama Prometheus Unbound.
Ooh.
It actually comes from the epilogue of the play in Act 4 and is spoken by Demogorgon. And so the full quotation reads, "To suffer woes which hope thinks infinite, to forgive wrongs darker than death or night, to defy power which seems omnipotent, to love and bear, to hope till hope creates, from its own wreck the thing it contemplates, neither to change nor falter nor repent. This, like thy glory, Titan, is to be good, great, and joyous, beautiful and free. This is alone life, joy, empire, and victory."
Nice. That makes it make a little bit more sense.
Yeah, like, given that in here it's like, to forgive wrongs darker than death or night, like, even that just, okay, I get it. Look, I think that it's, and like you say, after you know the whole thing, it makes a little more sense. I think that it's fitting for the episode, but it's one of those things where they've gotten a little too clever for themselves, because it's like somebody dug out 100 and what at that point it would have been 170-year-old play, and not that Prometheus Unbound is like unknown or something, but like they're like, hey, let's use like this little piece of that, and it's totally fitting for the moment, but like nobody knows that,
right?
Like there's gonna be some like people with English degrees somewhere who are like, oh, I get the reference here. So they've gone a little too far into the clever territory. I will say that if you show that line, I remember it's an episode of Deep Space Nine.
Oh, for sure.
It stands out real well. I don't know that I connect it with this episode because just like somebody does something horribly wrong, that could have been lots of episodes of this show. And right now, when we're talking about it, absolutely, I get like it's deeply related to like the theme of the episode. But ask me again a year from now and be like, I don't remember which episode that was. So it's memorable in one way, but I don't think it's memorable in exactly the right way. Like I don't automatically connect to the episode. So it's like an okay title. I feel like like I said, I feel like they just outplayed themselves a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's memorable kind of in the same way like Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken or whatever is memorable in that I can recognize it when I hear it, but there's no way I could actually recite it back from memory. Because I'm always like, dark's wronger than night or... but I do kind of, I think I've said this before, I have a growing appreciation for just those absurd, lofty titles they've been doing lately.
Yep.
So it kind of wins me over with that. Although this whole thing with the Prometheus Unbound or whatever, it just sounds like when I imagine someone pitching that, I imagine them saying it's like, well, when I was at Harvard, we read this play. It's like it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah. A little pretentious, but I kind of appreciate it. A little fuzzy on the memorability, and I guess you have to give it some credit for cleverness. Anyway, you have any final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
No, it's fine.
All right. So, that's our discussion of whatever it's called, Wrongs Darker Than Death or Night. Thanks for listening. If you like that one, maybe you'll like our discussion of, Necessary Evil, Things Past.
Rights lighter than the sun, or...
Right. What was the one where Kira tracked down that crazy guy?
Oh, yeah, that was last season.
The Darkness and the Light?
Something like that.
Yeah. Check those out. You can find those, all our past episodes, from your point of view. So they might be future episodes from our point of view, because you might be in the future of us. But yeah, you can find those wherever you're listening to what you're listening to right now. If you want to leave us a comment, you can do that on YouTube. If you want to leave us a comment, we actually read it. My name is Fletcher. About to say goodbye is Data.
Adios.
We look forward to seeing you next week. But remember, I only hope you won't condemn us all for the boorish behavior of one man.
Yeah, we probably deserve it. It's fine.